live now?
Yes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to what I believe is the 5th episode of the 4th season of Second Sons. As always, I am Roy Rogers, of the wayward member of the Philadelphia Meta, live here from my apartment, which has episode 1 paused on my television over here, because that's what Alan and I were watching while we ate dinner, and we're waiting for the episode to start. And I'm joined today, episode 1 of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, man. Yeah. I'm feeling very decline and fall of the Republic at the moment. So joining me today is that lovely voice, Jesse Carpenter. How are you doing today, Jesse? 1 week left, right, buddy?
1 week. I'm doing great. I'm excited. Getting all hyped up, getting all the prize support in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, don't you owe us Stark shirts or something?
Yeah. You have to come here to get it.
Oh. Well, that's not fair.
That other voice you heard there is our world-traveling bridge between worlds. The man who needs to start tagging people more in his photos on Missing the Cut. The one, the only, Sandy Barnabas. How you doing, Sandy?
Oh, I'm suffering from some jet lag. I think I'm in Europe time zone. Been getting up at like 4 a.m. like an idiot.
Such a tough life you live, Sandy. This international globe-setting lifestyle that you have. I feel terrible for you, Sandy.
I know it's pretty difficult.
It's pretty difficult. The Sandy Barnabas story. And then we also have Buzz Aldrin, our technical maven today. How you doing, Buzz?
Great. I've been all week following American and UK politics. It's amazing.
Oh,
it's very fun.
Hell yeah.
Dude,
I would never use the word amazing to describe either of those.
What the fuck is happening? Did you guys see? First of all, the veto didn't get overridden. Also, apparently, we're just not going to see the investigation results. I just don't even. I can't even. Like, what the fuck?
On that note, we are joined by a very special guest who has not been on Second Sons before, and we're incredibly excited to have him. Probably one of the best players in the world, and I think, no offense, Jesse, certainly the best deck builder, I think, in North America right now. Jim Henson, formerly of, the Seattle Meta, but now moved back home to Chicago now, right, Jim?
That's right, back in Chicago. So, I don't know. You've been listening to a lot of fake news there, Roy, with all that praise.
No. I think, Jim, I was actually thinking about this when we agreed to have you on. I think, actually, you remind me a little bit the way you build decks of what Darknage was like when he was first starting out, which is that you play your own twist on some pretty conventional archetypes that kind of do their own thing. So it's one of the things I like about you, Jim, as a player. So
also, like Darknage, he builds decks that I can actually play without like fucking up completely.
So, but
getting compared to Darknage is pretty good.
It is indeed. So we're gonna jump right into it because it's been a while since we had an episode, and sort of the first thing I want to talk about is today. I believe it was today. FFG dumped on us a new article previewing, what is it, the 3rd chapter pack of the cycle that's coming up?
Fourth, right?
Fourth.
Is it 4th? I will literally look in just 1 second. I'm reopening it. I accidentally closed it.
It's the 4th. It's the 4th,
which is Beneath the Red Keep, which has probably the most exciting card so far in this cycle, which I think is Kingdom of Shadows. Which is the new Shadows agenda that was spoiled for this cycle, which is a name familiar to 1.0 players, but has some brand new text, which is you may include non-loyal characters with the printed Shadow keyword from any faction in your deck. Increase the cost of each character you marshal by 1. Reduce the cost of the first character you bring out of Shadows each round by 2. Jim, as our guest, what do you think of this card?
I think it's really exciting. I mean, it opens up a whole lot of different options. I mean, I think it'll largely come down to the loyal in-faction cards that choose how you're going to play it. But I don't know. There's so many Shadows cards out there, And especially if you can pull them in from every house, I mean, you could probably be running 30 Shadows cards. And I don't know. I think it's going to be super fun. I'm really looking forward to the decks people can build. Just little good stuff cards like Hagen's Daughter. You can fit that in any deck. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it.
Just say the one that matters. You can play the Spy in any deck now. You can play the Martel Spy in any deck.
It's just
that's insane.
Your opponent is going to have no idea what card you have in Shadows. There's just so many options. I mean, when you think about when Shadows first came out, and it was like, oh, okay, you're Stark, it's a Bolton Flare. But now it's like, I don't know. Could be Robert Strong. Could be anything.
Could be Bolton Flare, because that's not
Could
loyal,
be Bolton
right?
Flare, exactly.
Could be anything. Could even be a Bolton Flare.
Could even be a Bolton Flare. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that how am I put this? I think that the Shadows locations that Danny printed in the last cycle are going to start to become really important, right? And I think that people are going to go back to the Tyrell one, I think, which is a little undervalued. I think the Martell one becomes much better, and the Lannister one as well, because they really do now have an engine. Now that you're not just stuck with your factions. Most factions have one good Shadows card, maybe two, and a bunch of mediocre garbage. But now that you can just pool all the Shadows cards across a faction that are non-loyal, you have just so much more flexibility that makes those really pay off in a way that I don't think they did at the end of the last cycle. But I know, Buzz, you were also excited about this agenda. What do you think?
So I played City of Shadows, which was the first edition agenda, for a very long time, especially Lannister, out of Lannister. So I'm super hyped, and as Jim said, the options is what makes it so fun. You always keep your opponent on the toes, and that's how I like to play. So.
Right, and it's a lot better for Lannister than the current Shadows agenda, right? Because Clever Feint works with it, unlike Assault in the Shadows, right? So you can just be bringing cards in, bringing cards out, much more efficiently than with Assault.
Yeah. So Lannister has some of the best support cards for Shadows without really having that good Shadows cards, aside from maybe Robert Strong. And Cat's Paw, which is the best card in the game.
And a card in the new pack, too. Mandate Moore is pretty good, too.
Sure, yes. But so I think Lannister will be very good, in a good position to abuse the agenda to the max, for sure.
The faction meal is a big deal. I mean, Clever Feint aside, Iron Bank events is so money in Shadows decks. Being able to run that will help a lot.
Yeah.
I do think this is going to be the agenda that opens up Shadows. Go ahead, Sandy.
I was going to say, I know you guys are looking at Lannister, probably Martell. I think there's some unexpected combinations with houses that we haven't really explored either. I feel like even just stupid interactions, with come into play effects out of houses that don't normally get them.
And I think Tark Shadows Attrition will be very good.
Or they can play Tyrell Shadows Knights.
Tyrell Shadows is going to be good. Queen of Thorns is actively a really good card.
They also have the best econ cards in the game, right? So they have them both for $4.
So. And you can dupe them on setup now. So
I thought you can't dupe them on setup. No. You can dupe them on the first.
Yeah.
So to prevent that,
for some reason, know how all Tyrell cards work now.
I think that's pretty exciting. So beyond the big three that sort of have the big locations, Tyrell, Lannister, and Martell, which of the other factions, which of the other five factions are you most interested in building with this agenda?
Bear.
Obviously Stark.
Mine will be Bear.
I don't think any. I'm just so excited to play the agenda, and then I want to play it out of the faction that I think it's best, which is probably Lanny Martell Tyrell. So.
All right, there's the ultimate Jamie and Buzz there coming out.
Yeah, there might be more locations that come out this cycle. They spoiled the Stark one, or at least a Stark one, in this 4th pack. So, as we see more, it'll open up more options. But right now, yeah, it's kind of the big 3.
I mean,
do we think Tower of the Hand is any good, though?
Tower in Hand?
Power of the Hand, the one they spoiled, which is reaction. It's 1 gold, unique location, non-loyal, Stark. After a card you control comes out of shadows, if there is a winter plot card revealed, choose and stand a Stark character. Limit once per phase.
I'm not saying that one's good, but I'm just saying cards like that will open up new possibilities.
Yeah.
So, my favorite card in my 1st edition deck was what's it called? The Black Cells. So if that comes out, then I'm gonna play Baratheon for sure.
Dude, the Black Cells and what's the other one?
Alchemist Guildhall?
King's
That's the one in
Trail.
Lannister.
Oh,
Black
Kingswood Trails,
Cells.
yeah. So what I did
That
was
was my
I played
deck. I love
Lannister,
that.
City of Shadows, and I played all 3.
So for us 2nd edition players, what did that card do?
So
Black Cells, they couldn't kneel or stand.
So most of the effects in 1st edition was after
When it came out of Shadows.
comes out of Shadows. Doesn't matter if it's you or me, which helped a lot. After a card comes out of Shadows, one of them was you can't kneel this character or stand it.
Or stand it.
And another one was kneel this character. And the Kingswood Trail was what?
It returned something to Shadows.
Did it return another card, another location to Shadows or something?
Yeah, there was a combination with Kingswood Trail and Black Cells where you could do it every turn. Like, you didn't need to, you can look it up, but I don't know. But it was part of that.
Worse than the other ones, but
yeah,
you did play it sometimes.
Remember old school Queen of Thorns?
Is that the one that gained a power?
Every time a card came out of
once
Shadows.
per phase. But
no, I mean, yeah.
Oh, like a Mace Shadows? Shit.
Yeah.
I would play the hell out of that card.
Yeah.
I did for sure.
Speaking of returning classics, what about this 3 gold Shadows location, Tunnels of the Red Keep? It has Shadow 2 action. Kneel Tunnels of the Red Keep to return it to Shadows. Then, until the end of the phase, each character you control gets +1 strength for each card you control in Shadows, max 1 per phase. What do people think about this? This OG returning.
So in 1st edition, it was just straight. It gave this plus all the time. Pay 3 gold for the rest of the game. Your stuff is +1 for each card you control in Shadows.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. You could play it HRD and just play a lot of Shadows and a lot of Shuds, and those were huge Shuds. I think Jacob Wolleman told me today why he doesn't like this card, and I think Shadows is most fun when you put it down and you use the card.
Yeah.
So the issue here is you put it down and you're incentivized to not use it. You're incentivized to not play cards. That's bad, in my opinion. So I do like I'd like the design more this time around, where you have to pay for it. You can flip it out in and out. You can use it as a surprise, etc. But
it's also static, right? So you can, after you trigger it, it creates the effect, and then you can bring any other cards in and out of Shadows that phase that you want, and it still stays at +5 strength or whatever. So
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't affect any cards that come out after you trigger it, but everything that was affected before then, you could then bring all the other cards out of Shadows if you wanted to, and it doesn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but specifically in this City of Shadows deck, I think it's actually, there's some anti-synergy there, because one, you want to bring characters out of Shadows so they get the effect. And if you're running non-loyal Shadows characters, that's going to be a lot of your characters. And two, I think it would have been better if it had been when it comes out of Shadows versus you put it back into Shadows to get the effect. I feel like it's much easier to control this way. I don't know. This is like, it feels like it's just a little too clunky to use effectively all the time. I know people love it. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It seems a little clunky and inefficient potentially. I mean, if you really are giving all your characters +5, every challenges phase, like that is pretty powerful.
I mean, Hornhill never sees 0 play.
But that's only one challenge.
Yeah, it's one challenge.
I guess that's fair.
And
I've been playing a lot with the Tyrell Shadows lately, and one thing that I appreciate is cards that you can trigger, that you can bring out of faction in any phase. And so one of the interesting synergies with this is if you have the Bowels of Casterly Rock also, I mean, you can get 2 gold for bringing it out.
Then you're just off to the fucking races, boys.
Well, so most of the time it breaks even. But I was just thinking, if you end your challenges phase with 4 gold left over, for example, you could just bring this card back out over and over, in dominance and then again in standing.
No, it's max 1 per phase, so it can only get... Oh, it's per phase, though, not per round. Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, right. You put it back in, and then dominance, you bring it out, trigger Bowels to get a card, and then standing, you bring it out again, trigger Bowels to get another card. So... with that,
drawing card seems good.
You're just converting 2 gold to 1 card, once per phase.
Which does solve a lot of Lannister problems. So, like, converting gold into cards is definitely something that Lannister struggles with right now. So.
Sure, but it relies on Bowels, and it's the only card they have right now. And when you see Bowels, the Lannister Shadows cards are so good. But when you don't see Bowels, it just kind of falls apart. So
it doesn't just fall apart. You sit there with a hand of 7 cards, and you're like, "Huh, I can put a card in the Shadows, but I can't bring it fucking out. Like I can't afford anything."
That's fair. Let's see. Was there anything else interesting in this?
The Maiden Vault.
Yeah, Maiden Vault was good.
What is it? All right, sell me on. Sell me on.
Read me the card.
All right, okay. So it's a 2 gold Shadows location, non-loyal, which matters now. Shadow 1. Reaction. After the Maiden Vault comes out of Shadows, choose a participating lady character, stand it, and remove it from the challenge. Interrupt. When the challenge phase ends, kneel the Maiden Vault to return it to Shadows.
Seems bad.
I mean, I guess it's similar to what Jim was saying about the Lannister location, where if you have the Tyrell thing, every round you can bring it more easily in and out to, I don't know, look at card filter. Like,
What?
And
Card
the
filter.
Tyrell location is...
Like, because that's what
even
the
better.
Tyrell location does, right? You look at the top 3 cards, put one in your hand,
Oh,
one on
Undercity.
top, one on the bottom, right?
Old Town Undercity, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason I like this card is you can use it offensively, like on your lady, and you can force them to overcommit, and it doesn't matter.
You can just play OSHA, dog.
Yeah, okay. Let me know when OSHA lets me tutor for an event, dog. Like, I want to tutor for 2 events every turn.
Play the Queen of Thorns.
Yes, and then
She just lets you do
kneel
that.
her. Then you stand her with this, and then you kneel her again. And
Look,
you get,
I'm all
Are we talking about
aboard
box?
this
Are we
card.
talking about box Queen of Thorns?
Yeah.
sure.
Look, I'm all aboard this card because this card is going to go in combo decks. I think this card is funny. I don't think it's actively good. It will be in those specific decks.
Stops Asha.
Good.
I mean,
That's just
Stops
stupid.
Asha. That's true.
It's
And then one off
It's a combo killer. Like, if Brienne gets out of control, boom,
Yeah,
green
like,
decks have an answer.
the only time it would shine is, as Andy says, when you have a lot of ladies, so you can actually use it reliably. Otherwise, it's only one-off in a Shadows deck to have something to bring out every round.
No, I mean, like, you don't actually care about this in a Shadows deck. You just care about it in a fucking Ladies Knights deck. This is not a Shadows card. It happens to have a mechanic that involves Shadows, but there's no synergy there.
But
it's a Knights Ladies deck. card.
I feel like you can find 64 other green cards you'd rather play with this.
I
Play
feel
it before you would put this in your
yes.
deck.
I'm all aboard the 64 card decks, boys.
This would be your 65th card though. So
You got to trim that. You can't.
Seems bad, Sandy. Buzz said 65th.
I don't know. I tend to overvalue green cards. Remember my position on Oathkeeper?
I do.
Oathkeeper is
It's a
a
great
good
meme.
card.
insane.
Other slightly odd cards that I actually think deserve a little bit of discussion. Shadows of the Isles, which is a Shadows only Loyal Greyjoy event,
Oof.
or Shadow of the Isles. Shadow 1, action. Each player chooses a non-limited location he or she controls and discards it from play. If there's a war plot card revealed, return Shadow of the Isles to your hand instead of placing it in your discard pile.
We don't want to talk about this card.
We
Yeah,
don't
that's
want to talk about this card?
Seems bad.
all cards, all decks I play get wrecked by this.
I hard disagree that you
Jim?
think this card is bad. I think this
Yeah.
card is really good.
Why don't you
no
just-
limit.
Okay, but like, why don't you just play Newly Made Lord and choose which one they discard, and you don't have to discard one.
Why don't you play both?
Yeah.
All right,
Why
yeah, I
not?
mean, if you're
Like-
playing both, sure.
Are you kidding me? This doesn't have a limit, right? Am I missing something? You
I
just
mean,
do it.
it has you have to have 3 gold. Like,
Right, and you
I
can't
mean,
you
sure,
can't reuse
but,
it on
like,
a trade route's turn. That would be potentially good.
why can't you?
I mean,
'Cause- Well, you have to have a war plot, right?
yeah, for it to return, yeah.
Oh,
Or
don't
it
worry,
is
we got
bigger
war
repeatable,
plots for
yes.
days, boys.
But it's
Still
you know,
triggers, even if it's not a war plot.
Yeah, but you can't
Yeah,
return
you
it.
get it back then.
Is it non-loyal?
It is loyal.
Greyjoy
Oh, it's
Reigns.
loyal?
Flip
Damn.
into a war plot.
If it was
But, like-
non-loyal, we're going to bring
but
it to the King Rob deck. We're going to be playing some hosts, just eating
Again-
up some locations. We weren't going to be playing locations. We're playing marching orders. Fuck, we're going to town.
But
No,
you
I think I actually really like this deck. I think especially in the current Greyjoy like stupid bullshit era, if you will. I think there's a lot of like you just can. The only downside to this is that each player has to discard, right? So like you can't do warships with this.
I mean, the
could do-
dream combo's using Sea Bitch, right? So you steal theirs
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Correct.
sack 2
Right.
of theirs.
Yeah.
But
Now
at that
we're going,
point-
Jim.
So then you have a 2-card
and
combo.
King's Landing.
And you have
Like,
and King's Landing. You need
so
the King's
correct.
Landing.
So
So you just get
so
rid of
you're down. Well, I guess so. You need to do it on a war turn, so you're not down a card, right? Because you have so that Sea Bitch, you spent a card to steal their card. Then you spend this card to kill their card, and then another card. I don't know.
No.
That's like a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I wish this card was loyal, but was green instead of Greyjoy, because this would be the fucking best Tyrell card in the world.
But
I wish
mean,
it was Night's Watch, but whatever.
I think that
Night's Watch has non-limited locations.
I-
You have Redwine Straits, the Arbor, and it doesn't like you're playing this 4 times. Like
Can you
enjoy your
trigger this
locations.
if you don't have a target?
Yeah,
I think as long as at least one person has a target, right?
yeah.
Maybe. I
You
don't know.
target the
No
player,
then.
right?
There's no then.
Sure.
It seems
Uh,
bad.
Each player chooses a non-limited.
Okay.
I think it's.
You guys know. you could do-
But I mean, I think
I'm
the
saying
key thing
for
we're
the
missing
people-
here, though, is
for
it
the
is
market.
discard, right? So you can save. So there is like, unlike the Stark effect, right? The Stark card that those Stark Kraken decks are built around the, what's it called?
North remembers, baby.
The North Remembers. Like you can't force. Like they can play around it. Like you see it
Well-
once. You're like, okay, I have an important non-limited location. I need to make sure I have dupes. Like I need to make sure that I can go a little wide with my locations. Like it's not sacrifice, right? I do think Jim's point about why don't you just play Newly Made Lord and at least you get to choose what they are throwing away, even if there's dupes on the table. Like it's
And
just
I agree with
Greyjoy has
Jim.
better location hate
I
than
agree with
this.
Jim. I just think you should play both.
I mean,
But for the 4 gold, you discard 2 locations because you put it into shadows. Oh, I guess you need 5 gold. You put it into shadows. You bring it out, return it to hand, put it into shadows again. Because you're still in marshalling. Like, why the fuck not? Bring it out again.
But you also, I don't know.
Only you had infinite gold somehow. Out of Greyjoy, God.
And you build your whole deck around it, and then you run into someone that has only limited locations, and then you just cry.
Yeah, House Tyrell. Playing against House Tyrell.
Tyrell.
Lannister.
Although after this, Lannister won't have all these bullshit shadow locations.
Hell yeah.
That's true. So any other thoughts that we want to say beneath the Red Keep before we jump into talking about the pack that's releasing on Thursday?
No, just excited.
Yeah, I mean the power level seems pretty nuts in this cycle, so I'm excited. But that brings us to we are at the gates of some new content here, which is of course the first pack of this is cycle 6, right? Got him.
Solid pun.
Yeah. So I actually think this pack is super cool. Simply because for the first time in the history of the game, as I understand it, but Buzz might and Sandy could probably correct me, the FFG actually released. No, that's not true. They did this with the Kingsguard, right? Because they were all in the same pack, right? Where a cycle of cards are all in the same pack, and particularly in the case of second edition, it's econ cards. So for the first time ever, every faction has access at the same time to this set's cycle of econ cards. Which I think is a really cool design decision by Danny. What?
It was really cool that he did it. It would have been a lot cooler if they were like balanced.
I mean,
all right.
So there are two reasons why that's really good. One is for the competitive thing that over the course of a few months we all have the same econ stuff. And two, when you buy into the game, you can okay, this pack is really good. You get extra economy. Here you go. Buy this card, pack. I mean, which is really really good.
So I want to talk broadly about just the concept in general. So what do we think just broadly before we get into which ones are the good ones, which are the bad ones? Like, what do you think of this design of 1 gold limited that gives 1 gold that you can, as a challenges phase action, of someday turn into 2 cards? Like, is that good in Thrones? Like, in general? Because we saw City Gates kind of failed as a design last cycle.
I disagree.
Right? You think that City Gates failed?
I think City Gates is a good card.
What name?
Okay.
City Gates
name a top
name
8
one deck
that has
Night's Watch Green Sight.
Oh, play City Gates?
Yeah.
Any deck that's ever come out of Wassa.
Play City Gates.
I played it in Lannister.
Do you ever play it over Rose Road?
No, I played over Gates of the Moon.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you play one of it?
Yeah, like when we all take decks to tournaments and we're all playing Gates of the Moon, I'm playing City Gates and you guys are playing a bad card.
Have you won anything with that in your deck?
I don't know. I won a few tournaments with Stark here recently with City Gates in my deck.
Where's here?
I think
I won Windy City and I had 2 City Gates in my deck.
I think City Gates is exponentially better when you play it out of a faction that doesn't swim in cards. If you're playing Martell or Tyrell with City Gates, you're doing it wrong. But if you're playing Lannister or Baratheon or some janky Night's Watch deck that doesn't run stupid draw, it's excellent. It's really good.
Can we do like winners and losers for this pack?
We can. I want to talk a little bit about the econ in general though before we jump into that kind of stuff because I think it's the most interesting thing about the pack. So
I think the econ is good. Like I think like the idea of it, like what you were saying, is 1-for-1 limited, draw 2 cards in challenges, like pay off later, or it should pay off later, is good. I think it's super healthy for the game too.
Yeah, I think it's good, and the cards have value both early game and late game. City Gates, if you draw it early, you feel bad that it's not a Rose Road. But with these, it's like you can get value early and then draw cards later. And just balancing out the econ and draw for some of those other factions is really the main thing.
Do you all think that these cards, though, have room to breathe in the current environment? Like, in a world with the busted non-limited econ we got last cycle, with very strong 2 gold, like outside of, say, the faction like Bara, that just is like got garbage econ cards, basically, since the core set. Do you think there's room for these cards to really like breathe? And
I do, and I think we'll get into it. I think that half of them are auto played right now, like in every deck in that faction. I think the others are centralized to specific builds, right? Like the Targ one doesn't go anywhere outside of Cohort. I just think like there are some that are just very, very specific. Like then there are others like Martel.
Well, Greyjoy is the great example.
Greyjoy, if you don't,
you're always the first player because you have +5 initiative nowadays. It's like, okay, it's not.
If you're playing a main house Stark deck that's not bannered, you're playing the Stark one. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
so the discrepancy between these is massive. It's stupid, really stupid.
I feel like Greyjoy, I feel like Danny's like repaying them for Iron Island's fish market or whatever. I feel like this is what's happening now. They just but why didn't Bear get it too?
So let's go to Sandy's winner or loser suggestion. Who wins the econ game then in this pack? Which one of these are above the curve?
Night's Watch and Greyjoy are definitely above the curve.
I think the Stark one is also.
Stark one is amazing as well. Yes.
Am I wrong? Is the Tyrell one not insane?
But do they need it though?
It's great, but they don't.
It's at any point, right? Like, am I crazy?
Yeah, it's at any point. It's like, oh look, I played Might of the Reach. I got 6 cards. Peace.
I don't know. That seems like super good.
But what are you cutting from the econ package from Tyrell to make room for this?
Arbor Marketplace.
Why are you cutting Arbor Marketplace though? It gives you the strength pump that you want for Randall.
Marketplace is amazing, and it's non-limited.
And like right now, in a meta, I mean, I could be wrong here. That is all about, I think, cheesing challenge math, right? With Sea of Blood, that's what Sea of Blood does. Like, it makes, particularly in the military challenge math really important. Like, that +1 strength is.
I would never cut Arbor Marketplace.
You know what's better than +1 strength?
Are you cutting?
Drawing your Growing Strong and just giving everybody +2 strength.
Are you not playing Pleasure Barges first? Because then you can draw in marshalling. It's so much better.
Or playing Septic.
It is.
Which is a body and up a card every turn.
Yeah. So it also just depends on
why do you need Arbor Marketplace?
It also just depends on at this current stage of the game, now that the game got rid of trade routes, essentially it's restricted. How many econ locations are you playing in your deck? Because it's not the same 9 and 10 you should have been playing before. You should be playing 12 econ.
Oh, 12, not 2. I meant 12.
You should be
I'm
playing
definitely
12.
only running 3 econ cards in my decks.
I don't know.
Instead of very specific decks that can get away with it, I think you should be playing 12 econ cards.
Well, is that true though? At the gates, meaning that you can have at least one limited card on the first turn.
See, I love at the gates what it does for deck building, especially if you have I hate the plot. It's stupid, but what it does for deck building is super interesting because of Great Hall. So.
Yeah.
You have a deck that's really good with Great Halls. So you run 3 Great Halls, but now you only run 1. It opens up a lot of your deck building space, I think.
You probably still run 3, right?
Do you?
When you see multiple Great Halls, that turns 6 cost characters into.
This is the thing. I would open this over Heads on Spikes in Crossing. Me, the greediest Crossing player in the world,
Correct.
would open this.
At first I was annoyed by it. I love this pot's existence because it does do things for deck building. It lets better players play. Correct. Absolutely.
I mean, I will play Riddle every day of the week because I already did, but now I'm rewarded.
Correct.
I'm switching to trading because of all you fucking Riddle players.
I mean, that's fine. Then you overextend and I varies you. That's completely fine with me.
Good luck.
All right. Well, before we jump into at the gates, so the winners of the econ game are Night's Watch, Greyjoy, Stark,
Martell,
Tyrell.
I
don't think Martell wins.
I think there are definite top 3. It's Night's Watch, Stark, Greyjoy. Then we can talk about others after that.
I actually think Stark and Tyrell are about the same level, to be honest.
Stark's is even easier though. What's competitive deck outside of the war format that Stark plays non-Stark cards? That's main faction Stark.
You don't run Milk of the Poppy?
It's characters, right?
It's
character.
Oh no, it is character. You're right.
And also, you definitely aren't now, because with that Stark location, you have a 3-drop insane character now. If you have all Stark,
you have to be careful. If you use I Am No One, then you can't trigger the location.
Yeah, I've been on Team Stark for 7 months now. I don't understand.
I think the location that sees the most play is going to be Barra, and that's just strictly out of their lack of other econ.
Yes.
But it's
also
one
super
of the,
annoying that we literally just took draw. We had to make Martell Wolf choose draw. We had to make Martell Wars choose draw, and now we just gave it right back to them. We literally just gave it back to them. That is annoying.
I don't know. I think the Martell one's fine. I actually think the Martell one is probably the most middle of the road balanced one there is.
Yes, I think that one has a good design. If the Greyjoy one had, if you have won an unopposed challenge this phase, you may draw 2 cards. That would be excellent. But no, instead you're the first player, and Martell gets their.
I wish Greyjoys would have been if you've brought a character out of the dead pile this phase, draw 2 cards. That would have been cool.
Yeah, because we need more reasons to synergize with fucking Vince.
I'm cool with it. If we're gonna I don't know.
Is Martell still hurting? Is Martell really hurting for cards?
No, they're not hurting for shit.
Are you
kidding
I know,
me?
but this is what I'm saying. Martell, I feel like Martell and Targaryen right now, they have and Tyrell, they have the cards, they have the gold, they have the money. These cards don't really do anything for them. Some of them are better than others. I do think the Tyrell one is better than the Targaryen one in most builds, and better than the Martell one in a lot of builds. But I don't think those factions are immediately going to look at these things and be like, ooh, sweet, sweet, sweet. I want to make room for this, because they just already are the winners of the econ game.
Sure.
And the card draw game.
But Martell did lose Dorn, or you have to run Dorn as you're restricted. And this gives you more redundancy. Maybe you don't have to run secret schemes, because that's the draw that you run now instead, if you don't run Dorn. So now you can run this and skip secret schemes, especially out of Assault, where you have to have your faction Neil available. So I do think it opens up a lot of things for Martell.
But does it help Martell? At least to me, the more recent Martell games I've been playing, when you really need the draw is when you want to close the game. When you're starting to get that Martell lock going, but you need to you've spent all your resources to start shutting them out, and now you need some cards to close the game. But are you going to lose 2 challenges at that point in the game, and you're going to be able to draw?
That's my point.
Are you in the mid to late game when I think Martell needs cards going to be able to get that?
I think you plan for it, and I think, I know when I'm ahead, I usually don't need the cards that much. But when I am behind, and I do like to play lose to win stuff, so maybe it appeals more to me. But I do think it's really good, even in the late game. And it puts real pressure on the opponent, because if I'm making a jump challenge that you okay, I'm gonna defend. Okay, that's 1 challenge down from giving me 2 cards. It gives them really hard decisions, and which is really good for competitive play as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, which is why I really like the design of the Martell one, not so much most of the others.
Oh, I think the
The
Martell
la-
one's very good designed.
The Lannister one will be good in Shadow's decks, and that's it.
That's a real.
Can we talk about?
Yeah, what's up, Sandy?
I was gonna say, can we talk about which king won because they let this pack be legal? Because I'm pretty sure it's Jordan, right? Those two Night's Watch cards
if
are
we're
two
going
of
on
the
the
best cards in the pack.
if we're going on the complex that like everyone thought Night's Watch was, if we're going on the complex that everyone thought Greyjoy was that far ahead, arguably the Greyjoy cards are just as good as the Night's Watch cards in this pack.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want Greyjoy
Baylor
being able to play?
Fine.
Do you want Greyjoy being able to play You Win or You Die, crushing
Baylor
you, and then the next turn they just get to draw 4 or 6 cards because they just beat you in initiative?
Also,
the thing is, they draw it after the marshalling phase, or after their You Win or You Die turn, which is fine with me.
But like consistently
That's why
these
I think
days,
the Night's Watch cards are better.
Yeah.
I like the Night's Watch cards a lot.
The Night's Watch cards are the best cards the Night's Watch have gotten in a cycle.
Since Three-Finger Hob.
Oh yeah, Three-Finger Hob was last cycle, right? Since Hob, right? But I don't think that they fulfill a need the way the Greyjoy card does, like the Greyjoy Econ card. Like I think it solves 2 problems for Greyjoy. Where this is the thing I've been saying, that one of the weaknesses that Greyjoy has had consistently, and the restricted trade routes really I think brought this home, was econ, like long-term econ and cards, right? And then you now have a location that solves both problems. So you have an econ card that when Greyjoy doesn't need econ anymore, it can just sacrifice it. If it always needs econ, like this is the only thing it sees, it's always going to have +1 gold. Like there's no downside for Greyjoy, particularly because the trigger is so easy. Particularly the way in which Greyjoy decks are built right now. Both Sea and Blood, the 2 best Greyjoy decks are Sea of Blood and Crossing, and they both want to go first.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole deck's built around that synergy, so this is just slots in easily.
Sure. But if we were talking about like not only in a vacuum, but in competitive play, I think the Starks are the kings of this one, because they got hit by the restricted list really hard. This solves a lot of problems that they're having now. Losing Wyman, sure, maybe you run Wyman as your restricted, but now maybe you don't feel forced to, and maybe you can play something else because you have access to a lot of draw outside of Wyman.
Maybe you can run them both, baby.
Yes, you can.
Card draw is good.
I really got this excited to playing Stark Attrition with this, because then I don't feel forced to playing Wyman. I don't want to play him in as my restricted in the Attrition deck. So
cool. So any final thoughts about the econ before we jump to the return of city plots?
I think to me the story of the econ is Targ and Lanny having very different structures to their cards. I think the other 6 factions will be able to slot that into almost every deck, but Targ and Lanny, I don't know, maybe 20% of their decks will be able to play it.
I would put Barra in that. Only a few Barra decks will actually get to 5 power. So,
well, they're going to run it anyway, just because they would run the 6 Rose Roads if they could.
Yeah,
I would run 9 Rose Roads and Barra if I could, dog.
Barra is a gold-hungry faction, and all the box cards that have been spoiled make it seem like you want more gold.
I'd just be kind of curious to know what the design process was and how they decided to do that split.
I think Lannisters will be much better than Targs will be. Because I think Lanny Shadows has a much longer life than Targ Cohor.
I do not think that Cohor is necessary for this, because it's 2 or more attachments. It doesn't say on your characters. Like, negative attachments work too.
You running 3 Crown of Golds, dog?
If I could, I would. But I'm running Queensguard and I'm running Milk of the Poppy.
I mean, sure.
I mean, they just still have Gifts for the Widow, right? So like, you don't even have to run Cohort necessarily.
Yeah.
Just seems a lot. It just seems like you probably won't run it.
It seems like a lot of work for something that's not really worth it from where Target is right now.
I mean, so some of the best ones are stuff that's going out of play. So Crown of Gold is an attachment you actually run. It goes out of play. Silver Steed is a card you actually play, and it goes out of play. And isn't Bloody Arak the same?
Mm-hmm.
Which is
That's
a
the
real
Corsair
problem.
card, right?
Bloody Arak? No, it's the one that you go
That's
initiate another
Sack.
military challenge.
Oh, Sack, right.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't go out of play? Blood Magic Ritual.
And Beggar King.
Yeah. Also, Beggar King, yeah. Mother
Oh.
of Dragons. There you go.
Sounds like you're onto a crazy brew there. Keep
No,
it going,
really,
Sandy.
It really does sound like Cohort and nothing else.
Correct.
You don't think Queensguard and Beggar King are enough? Like, honestly, with Gifts for the Widow?
No.
I mean, aren't there decks that run 3x Beggar King and counting coppers and stuff, and I bet they could really use
if
that.
you're running Milk as well, then we're starting to talk. Yes.
But you have to.
But then you're
For it to
gonna
work,
want
they
to run
both have to be
Cohort
in
anyway.
play at the same time. I don't know. It just.
Yeah.
I don't think Target's thirsty for cards or even money the way to make it worth the effort, but I could be wrong. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the return of City Plots. The 3 first edition players on this cast remember the tyranny of City Plots in first edition.
I might have been a tyrant myself.
Yeah, me too. City Plots was my favorite mechanic in first edition. Like, I played what was the Defiance? Was that the one that let you run 10 plots for the game? And just to run 10 city plots. That's how much 9 city plots in Valor Margulis. Like, I just loved city plots so much. So what do we think about this?
These are tame city plots, though.
So,
the ones we've
at
seen.
the gates, not
tame.
pretty
So
tame.
for second edition players, maybe we should say what they actually did in first edition. So in first edition,
go ahead, Buzz.
I played these a lot, and they're similar to the used pile mechanic, in that the more you have in your used pile, the stronger the next one gets. Is how they used to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that this time around. But we do see, is it at the gates? No?
At the gates,
No,
there's
both
no
of-
city plots.
Both of these
are... Yeah,
No.
At the Gates is the opener, and City of Secrets is the you must have one in your used pile.
To not have a drawback.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Right.
But it's not like there's one that kneels one character for every city plot in your discard pile or whatever the fuck that one was.
That one was great.
But we are getting the same kind of style at least. Maybe we're getting the numerical thing as well. That is interesting. So
Did they say river plots were coming back too, or just city?
I think they
have
said
no
just
clue.
city.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm actually not a playtester, so.
I don't think a
Neither.
cycle can support both rivers and cities in a way that's interesting.
No,
without
I think
them already being
they would
established
get
themes.
their own one, right? Their own
Yeah.
cycle. Yeah.
Their own cycle in a cycle. So what do we think of At the Gates? We talked a little bit about it before. For those of you listening rather than watching, it's a 4017 city kingdom plot. When revealed, search your deck for a limited location with printed cost 1 or lower, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Or put it into play instead if there are no city plots in your used pile. Shuffle your deck. Like, this is easily the best opener now.
Yes. So with the trade routes gone, we've had a bit trouble of fixing the plot lineup for Econ. This kind of solves everything, which makes it a solid opener for pretty much any deck.
It's solid. I'm a little worried that it's too slow, in the current meta. I mean, if you're playing against Sea of Blood and your plot's effectively 5-0-1 for that first turn, I don't know. It might be too slow in some matchups.
I mean,
but it's otherwise pretty
6-0-1.
solid.
With Great Hall or Gates of the Moon, it's 6, right?
Well, yeah, but if it's Gates, then you're giving them 1 gold too. So
that's fine. I love Gates.
Card's bad.
Got him.
I don't know. I don't think so. We'll see.
We'll see about that. But I mean 5-0-1, but that's not saying that you didn't set up any other limited, right? So like, if you can make it a 6-0-1, I think that's enough for a lot of decks to keep up and Sea of Blood, right?
So it compares very similarly to the Winter Reserves plot, right? That one's 5-0-1, and it gives you +1 gold for the rest of the game if you're running winter plots. I feel like that plot's too slow right now. Yeah. So I'm not convinced that this one's going to be significantly better.
On the other hand, if you're fetching a Great Hall or Gates of the Moon, it's a 6-0-1. Compare that to Time of Plenty, which people are actually opening.
They're bad people, but then you
do get a card and you get it put into play immediately. Actually, it's even more than that. It's a 7-0-1 because you don't have to pay a gold to put it into play either.
Yeah, I think if you're running Time of Plenty, then you better look long and hard at this plot because it'll probably replace it a lot of the time.
Yes.
Well, one of the draws of Time of Plenty is that it can't be enabled, and this can be. So I'm not sure that that's a fair comparison.
But then you're trading a 2 for 2 because he's grabbing Gates. So it's 2 to 3. I mean, navoing this doesn't feel great, unfortunately.
I think the other difference.
I wish it did.
I know Jesse, and I'm assuming Jim shares Jesse's opinion about Time of Plenty, but is that it's bad. But a lot of people use Time of Plenty also as a smoother, where if you have an awkward redraw, you see an additional card, right? Particularly if you're digging for something in like higher synergy decks like Builders or Knights or something like that just needs to see some of its pieces, and the ability to have a solid gold plot and you see an additional card, I think is very powerful. So this doesn't do that at all. It doesn't say, hey, I'm missing something crucial for my hand. My ability to see 3 cards on the first turn is this will help me. I know that goes against everything Wausau thinks in the entire world.
But I mean, Roy, it does help if the thing you're missing is an econ card.
Yes.
Actually, I will tell you that I am the only person in Wausau who does not like this plot. They're all big fans of it. They all think it's really good. Really, really, really good.
Yep.
Brats,
doesn't
Chase,
surprise me at all.
Sam, Nick, they all think it's really good.
I think it's good too, for what it's worth.
I do think it's good. I just don't like it.
Plenty.
Yeah, I do think it's a very good plot. I think it's like going to be the opener for a lot of decks.
I think Time of Plenty is totally fine as an opener if you don't have anything better. And similarly, at the Gates will be totally fine.
I think your point, Jim, though, about it being slow in a Sea of Blood meta is a good one, and it will be interesting to see whether the fact that you're fetching the Gates or one of these new econ cards or a Great Hall gives you enough econ oomph to keep up. What do we think, though, probably the more interesting of these two, which is City of Secrets?
How's that interesting?
I think it's a cool card. I think it's a well-designed card. Because it's interesting. If At the Gates really becomes as ubiquitous, then it has a real risk. It is a cool combo enabler, like decks or decks that are high discard synergy. Like, I just think it's a cool card that is going to have unexpected usages, and we're going to see it show up in weird places. Like the ability to. Oh yeah, I'll read it. It's a 4 gold, 4 initiative, 1 claim, 8 reserve city plot. When revealed, each player draws 2 cards. Then each player without a city plot card in his or her used pile chooses and discards 2 cards from his or her hand.
Seems really good.
Like, I think it's an interesting design.
I've got a 6 gold plot that lets me just put econ into play. I can just draw 2 cards and make your opponent discard 2. Seems really good.
It's really good with the High Sparrow.
Got him. Does it say choose an opponent?
No, each
or
opponent.
Your opponent.
Each player.
Oh, thank
each
you. This card is funny in Melee.
No, it's each player without a city plot. So
yeah,
you can actually.
So you can hurt yourself. Yeah. Well, hurt. I think a deck that opens this or runs it and doesn't have any other city plots wants to discard 2 cards into their discard pile.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if your opponent also runs city plots, it just gives them 2 cards.
Yeah,
correct.
Like
that's what makes it interesting. Like to me, like that's what I think is there's an interesting creative tension in this card. It pulls you in different ways and punishes you if you make a bad meta call, but it can give you rewards. Like if city plots are somewhat of a dud, this can be a good card.
But I mean, the defense against this is just to have 1 city plot.
Yeah.
That you open with.
AKA
many
at
will.
the gates.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Double dealing.
I was gonna say that the upside on this card doesn't seem high enough. Like, it's not that much better than Accounting Coppers. You're getting 2 more gold for 1 less card, but then you're also giving your opponent something. I don't know. I really like it if your opponent just played Win or Die, or if anytime they have no cards in hand, then just they draw 2 and discard 2 right away, right? So that's kind of fun.
Man, I don't think this.
Unless
I do
they have
not
a city
think this
plot.
is a good.
Yeah.
I do not think this is a good plot 2 card. I'm with you, Jim. I think it is a very good hand destruction and leverage card. Like late game, I think this card is going to be very good in Lannister. Like really, really good.
Does Lanny play this instead of Spikes? Does Lanny rush?
I mean,
With
some of us
Cersei
who
out?
have a soul do.
Rush? No.
No.
Like a Cersei deck? Would it play this?
But you
I
get
would never
3
play that
times as
Cersei.
many power if you hit a character with heads and spike.
It's true.
I
But
would
you
never
always
play
get the
that
power
Cersei.
here.
So no, you don't.
You get,
this is what I
no, never mind. You get
I don't think. I think the downside of this plot, and I agree with Jim. I don't think the upside is sufficiently good to warrant running it, because the moment city plots become remotely popular, it just gives your opponent an equal advantage, or more. Like it's, I don't know. I would not run this plot unless I felt I was the only one playing cities, or if cities was just like a totally marginalized theme. But
the decks that I could see this working in is maybe like Greyjoy or Night's Watch, where you're playing off of your opponent's discard piles and you're just trying to get more cards in their discard pile.
Hell yeah!
I could see that working. Yeah. But I mean, ultimately,
like hoping they hit reserve or what?
No, like if you want them to put a location in so you can steal it, or if you're playing Night's Watch Green Sight and you want them to have more characters in the discard pile. I mean, they get to choose and put them in, but there's that potential. But ultimately, you're probably going to be playing it for the city traits, right? Just for more synergy with future city cards.
Yeah.
I guess. I guess if it sees play, it'll see play now.
Oh, Robot Sandy.
Yeah, we got exactly what you were trying to throw down there.
Bessos is taking over.
And after that, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, am I misreading the card? If your opponent has a city plot, they don't discard.
That's correct.
Okay.
Which is why I'm saying this is Garbo.
Right. Like, unless
I didn't realize that, I guess. Yeah, that card's bad.
Like,
if they play a city plot, you don't have to discard 2 cards?
That's correct.
That's a fucking worst time of plenty. God damn! That card is bad!
Why are we trying to find uses for this card? It's not good.
Shit. That card is really bad.
Because even though we're Jamie, we do like jank.
It goes into those sweet loot decks.
Yeah.
I guess. Isn't there something that moves a card from their use pile back to their plot deck or something? Is there not some bullshit Night's Watch or Martell thing that does this?
I have a question for our
I'm not
resident
sure you're
combo
on.
player here, though, Jesse. So 4-4-1, draw 2 cards, dump 2 cards in your discard pile. Would combo play that?
No.
No?
Because in any current iteration of combo, you need the exact cards in your discard pile to be exactly what you need.
Okay.
So I do not think so, in my opinion. Maybe, I mean, it could be like a 7th plot, like if you're winning, like consistently plot 2 or 3. It could be like a one-off plot, like if you nut draw Growing Ambition turn 1, then you just open that, seed your discard pile, and just do whatever you want. But I still just think meddling is better. Right? I mean,
No. It's a legitimate question. I was just
maybe.
it screamed combo the first time I read this. But
I hope so.
I don't.
you might be the only one in the
combo.
community hoping so. All right.
No,
So
there's
Combo would run this over coppers for sure.
there's more of us out there. They're sewing banners waiting for the return.
I should have joined Team Tyrell. I mean,
Oh,
we don't have a
shit.
combo deck. We don't have a combo deck.
Colt didn't spend the money, man. All right. So, but it's good you brought up Jesse's name day because we're going to move into that for the sort of end of the show here to talk a little bit about it. But any final thoughts about the pack that people want to
I'm
make
excited.
Sure
I know that we didn't touch on all the cards, but I just think there's some really, really cool cards in this pack. Like Alsane's
Craftsman.
cool.
Fuck that card.
So Littlefinger is one of my favorite characters. I'm always really happy when we get a new Littlefinger, and we do get that now.
I love that Littlefinger, and like Jim and I talked about it a lot this weekend. Like, I love it. It's just so expensive.
But I'm playing
It's
Lanny
so
and
slow.
Tyrell, so it's fine.
It's so slow. Like, I mean, going back to Jim's earlier point.
For
like,
sure, I only play slow decks.
Yeah, but I mean, the question is like, this is something we argued a bunch about when we did the White Book review of these cards. Is Littlefinger too slow for the Sea of Blood meta and the Crossing meta? That's sort of what Aaron.
That's not the Sea of Blood meta, the Crossing meta. That's AGOT 2.0.
I think there was a time, probably.
Oh, Sandy figured out how to blur his background.
I think last summer, this card would have been busted. Like, because the meta was not super fast. Like, there was time to do things. Decks were going to 3 or 4 plots.
Did somebody, Roy, can you refresh my memory? How many plots did the World Finals go to? Was it like 9 or something stupid?
Yeah.
They did.
So I don't think you can say that we're in a slow meta. Like we're
well past the World meta.
It's been 3 months. 4 months.
And they released Sea of Blood during that.
Right. So it is, I think, to Jesse's point or to your point, or whatever Jesse said was wrong. It is just the Sea of Blood meta. It's not Thrones 2.0. Slow decks have won in the past, and they will win again.
Yes.
They will. I mean, I think he's a strong card. I just think right now, I don't think we're going to see the full extent of our Littlefinger dominance. But if Sea of Blood gets restricted.
I mean, you know what stops this Littlefinger bullshit, just like every other bullshit, is High Sparrow. High Sparrow.
Hell yeah.
High Sparrow meta.
There we go.
Oh, man. My favorite card. All right. Any other thing else? We didn't talk about like bullshit Martell cards that can come into play without paying gold costs.
I think the pack overall is very good. Like, there's not much binder fodder, and there's nothing busted as far as I can tell so far. And you know,
really solid cards that go in most of the faction stacks. Like Manon Moore, Age Craftsman, Alice Mormont, Baylor Blacktide. Those will be staples. So
before we move on, I do want to talk about one card that I think it's actively bad, but maybe I'm wrong. Is the dragon bad? Is the dragon bad? He's bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the issue is that his name is Viserion. Otherwise, it would be good, right?
Okay.
Is he good in the abstract though?
I mean,
I don't know.
Doesn't Targaryen have a better version of this already that exists with the guy who was in the Greyjoy
Portfolio.
box.
Cool.
Yeah. Where you like don't have to discard a card to get Intimidate. You could just have discard to put in a challenge. Like,
and he has Intimidate always.
Yeah, he always has Intimidate. Like, I don't.
So this has icons, which is pretty good.
True. That's true. Icons are good.
It's all right.
Nightmares and treacheries and winds and stuff exist. So.
I don't know. I just don't know if a card is worth Intimidate. But I could be wrong. Like, I don't play Targaryen nor ever want to play
this restricted list, a card is not worth Intimidate.
Maybe not, but I do like the design. You put them in the challenge and puts really hard decisions on your opponent, and that's always what you want from a card.
Yep, agreed. I like putting the decision on your opponents. I don't know, we may get more dragon synergy. And like the ambush it's worth something. People forget about the ambush sometimes on these dragons.
Yeah.
But
I do.
Yeah.
I play them all the time and I forget.
I definitely don't know, like,
and they get fucked.
People should never forget about it now that his dar's gone around. If they're sitting on 6 gold, okay. Either you're about to burn my whole board to the fucking ground, or you have a Drogon in hand.
Which ends, you're gonna burn my whole fucking board to the ground.
If you play against a Nordic fealty burn, it could definitely be either. So
correct.
Yeah.
But is he ever
I meant
more than the 2 gold dragon? That's really good to trigger Dracarys.
Yeah. Sure.
He the reason.
All right, that's the last thing I wanted to touch on. We can move on now. Sorry, I was just curious.
We're not going to talk about how Aged Craftsman just makes Builders the fucking best deck in the world again.
Fuck you, Sandy.
See,
I don't think it does.
I'm super excited to play this out of anything. Okay, we can talk about him a little bit. I'm super excited to play Night Torch with him and not play Builders. He should have had.
Yeah, me too.
He should have had a different trait. Because he's really good in Builders, so he should have not been a builder. And then you play Builders, and you're like, oh, this card is really good. How can I fit him in my Builders deck, even though he's not a builder? That would be really interesting deck building. But it's not. He's a builder. You just put him in the deck.
He would be garbage in Builders without the builder trait because he can't take blades. Like, what makes him playable in Builders is that he has the trait.
No, it's actually both that he has the trait and the ability, which makes him super insane.
Dude, his ability is so good.
But that's more where Night Switch needs to go. Not, okay, this is a builder card I play. This is in Builders. This is a blah 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 card. So I play this in Rangers. They should have a bit of a mix. If you have a really cool defense card that is a Ranger and you want to put them in your Builders deck, it makes your deck building harder, and that's interesting.
And it just makes that fresh recruit sweet as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I think, Buzz,
Yes.
I think you're missing... Builders is a deck built around the trait Builders that coincidentally is a defense deck. Like, it's not a defense deck first that plays Builders because the Builders are busted, right? It starts from the build... Like, think about how much Wama, like, when it was at its most idealized and he was winning all the time, like, trimmed out literally everything without the trait that he could to win. Like, Hob is only in the deck literally because Hob's a broken card. Like, that's the level. You have to be Hob level to, like, consistently want to play more than maybe 2 of a card that's not a builder.
Yes.
Because of just how tight the synergy is.
That's fine. But that's an issue with the game design that they've had. They've had printed Builders, and they only work with Builders. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be more interesting for Night Torch. I think when Tomas is building decks for Night Torch defense, it's super interesting because he takes stuff from everywhere. He's playing Ari sometimes because it's good in the meta. And, like, I don't know, he sews together a really cool deck. And that's where Builders should be, and they aren't.
I mean, we could go on for hours about this. Like, I think Builders is a really cool deck and became only a cool deck when Wama and Florian decided that you just cut the chaff. Like, it really becomes a high synergy, high reward deck that's not trying to do the Tomas, a version of the Tomas strategy. It's attacking the defense strategy from a different angle, which is this tight way to abuse really overpush cards like Brandon's Gift and which nobody thought before Wama and Florian dreamed up like a consistent builders was a good card. Banish Stronghold, this like busted card. Like it's leveraging these really tight synergies was really interesting. Which not everybody thinks that that's super interesting. I think Tomas decks are really cool too, but their avenue of attack is different at the defense problem. And
I understand that you think that deck is cool, but I'm saying the deck building is not cool. It's really dull, actually, because what you do is you take the builders. Sure, we know this because Wama taught us how to do this. But what you do is you take the builders, you take some defense locations, and you're done. You really are.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just involved in really tight conversations fighting over you two-card decisions. And
the big decision with the deck. The big decision with the deck is like, do you play off or not?
Superior claim or not? Because that's funny, but the deck is the same.
I mean, I think there's legitimate arguments whether or not you play Othel, because Wama disagrees and Chase agrees.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree too. For the record,
I think both decks are boring as fuck, and it doesn't matter. But just
wrong.
So
Builders is a fun deck to play. It's not fun for your opponent, but it's a fun deck to play.
It's literally a style of play. Like it's fun for you.
Yes,
I also play Crossing. What? Like, you know what's not fun for me? Fucking Martel Wolf.
I tried.
I think that's fun.
For Stalek last year because I thought it was a really good meta call, and I played one deck versus Jacob, and he started looking at the clock, started doing other things, looking at the other boards, what are they doing, and I hated myself and I stopped playing. I had super much fun. I like Solitaire, I like Combo, I like Builders to play it, but I won't play it against an opponent.
I don't think it's that slow, to be honest. But
it's not slow. It's boring. It's non-interactive. That's the issue.
That's fair.
So, but Buzz's point wasn't about builders and whether or not it's good for the game. His point was about deck building, and I totally agree that this could have been a more interesting card from a deck building perspective if it wasn't a builder.
Correct.
And now you take the builders list and you say, okay, which guy am I replacing this guy with? Which isn't that interesting of a decision.
I mean, the ability is so good that you will play it outside of a builders as well.
Yeah.
That ability is freaking crazy.
Yes,
I don't know how many enters play effects Night's Watch has, but I can't think of any other than this one. And that means you combo with Cold Hands, you can combo with Flea Bottom. It's just, it's so good.
Cold Hands, I like that. Nice. But yeah, I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Flea Bottom, if you're running Veteran Builder already, if you trigger this guy twice, like, that's really good value. You don't have to trigger him 5 times.
You can just go get your Flea Bottom Alleys, because it doesn't say non-limited. So just get your limited 1 cost, your limited 2 cost locations, put them into play.
Yeah, I mean,
ramp up
if
your econ.
you play this guy turn 1 and you fetch an Underground Vault, and then it's like, okay, he only cost me 1 this turn because I get my 2 gold right back, and I got an extra Underground Vault for the whole game. Like, that's really good value.
Yeah. Insane.
He's frequently free in builders.
Yeah, if you trigger the gift, then he's free.
Or he gains 2 gold because it's in builders.
Yeah, there's an interesting now, like on a gameplay level, there is actually something interesting about him. The fact that he's just straight up no attachments is actually a big deal for builders decks, right? Because particularly in the Sea of Blood meta, like blades are super important, and like Jim's suggested playing this first turn. Huge value play, but that can also lose you the game if you're playing builders because you can get blown out by a Sea of Blood or a Crossing where you just don't have the icon spread accessibility that you had before. So, right? Particularly honestly, Greyjoy running so much more stealth, like they can easily that you're down now. Now you're running for 3 of this dude because he's so good, but that means there's 3 less blade targets in your deck is a legitimate deck building cost for builders and for this its access to this ability.
I think,
but this pushes you towards Othel, which is just again an interesting it's an interesting give and take with the deck. But anyway, it's almost like I've been thinking about this a lot.
This just makes the Othel version of the deck better. It just means you don't run duel, you run the Summer or the House of Dreams with this and Othel rather than the non-Othel duel version. But I don't think that's like.
I run duel. I like duel.
Duel's so.
I love duel.
Duel is so good right now. Greyjoy.
You know what's going to happen with this guy is you're going to make it to the cut, and then you play him first turn, and he whiffs.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're just like, oh, I paid 3 gold for a 1-strength monocon that does nothing? Great.
Oh, Jim, you're just describing so many of the games that I will play at Jesse's tournament. Be like, oh, there's no way I miss here. Oh, it's all of my characters. All right, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Next turn, draw 2 locations. Cool. Here we go. That's how it always is. The variance always gets me. All right. Speaking of Jesse's name day, let's jump into it because I need to get to bed relatively soon because I'm still healing. So Buzz, you're not attending. Who do you think? Yeah. Who do you think is looking good for Jesse's name day? If you were to bet on any faction right now,
I might have been recruited for one of the factions to build, which happens to be Martel.
Shocking. I'm shocked.
So I've been a little bit up, like only not into the event, but only on the Martel side, trying to keep up because they are spamming.
It's Blazers in that group, so
yeah.
When he's got his heart on for deck building, you're never gonna not hear anything from him.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. We did cover the draft, right?
Yep, we did.
Yeah. I really liked. Is it Colt that's on Tyrell?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I really liked that and Jordan's draft, which is Night's Watch. So it's that, and I think Martel is coming around on really good decks, which is cool. But I'm not really that knowledgeable about the process. Except for Martel, which I can't talk about. So,
Jim or Sandy, excluding your team, who do you think has a really strong play? Who are you guys most afraid of? To put it that.
Kyle.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be Greyjoy, right? They're just so far and above the curve.
I'm just personally afraid of Kyle.
We're all personally afraid of Kyle. I mean, he's a scary man. He's got that Iowa beer shirt on. Then you just you got to look at both ways before crossing the street.
I think Targ has a lot of really good decks right now and some good players. I'm pretty scared of them, I would say. I think Team Barra is going to do relatively good. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the top half. I think they've tapped into some pretty good decks from what I've seen as well. So, I don't know. I think it'll be a competitive field.
Sandy, same thoughts, different thoughts?
Yeah, I think Greyjoy is what I'm worried about. But I actually, the other house that I'm concerned about is Night's Watch. I don't like playing against defense decks. I feel like there will be at least 4 defense decks and then 4 Sea of Blood bullshit decks. So, I don't like Rangers. I don't like Stewards. I actually hate all 3 of those Night's Watch decks.
What you're saying is you hate Watchers on the Wall. You hate that card.
I hate Watchers on the Wall. I also hate Rat Cook.
I love.
And I hate Abandoned Stronghold.
I love Rat Cook.
I love Rat Cook.
Where does that leave me?
I hope he cooks Sandy's deck. I hope Rat Cook cooks Sandy's deck.
Ever since somebody Rat cooked my fucking Renly with 3 power on him.
Yes, the dream. I just got a little hard there, Sandy, just thinking about
there
that.
We go, baby.
How about you, Jesse? Who are you afraid of?
You're gonna play what I want you to play, Roy?
Maybe.
No. So if Greyjoy does what I think they're gonna do, then I am scared of Greyjoy. If they bring 15 big guy decks, then they will fail. If they split it up and play half passive power, half big guys, and switch it up, then I think they're in a very, very, very good position. Outside of that, I think that I think that Martell's in a really good spot. If I believe Glazer and Alejandro, and I've heard it from both of them, that they've gotten their, they've gotten their like more uncomfortable players on decks that they're comfortable with, then I'm scared because I think Martell is in an incredibly good spot right now in a war style format because you can't tech against them. But
I can.
I want to second Jesse's thought because I think that the reason why Dustin and Andras lost to Sid and Buzz in California this past Thrones War was that they didn't bite the bullet and play Drown God. I think if some of their team members had played Drown God, they would have picked up more wins because the deck free rolls plenty of decks in the war format, and their decision to play nothing but big guy decks line them up poorly in a race with Targaryen for wins, particularly where the restricted list was then. And I think where the restricted list is now, that's even more true. So if Kyle is willing to, despite you have to understand, Kyle hates passive power decks. He lost to Rat Cook once and spent 3 hours endlessly texting me about how he's quitting the game after losing to a Rat Cook game. I was at this family event and my phone was blowing up. He's like, I quit the game, Roy. I quit the game, Roy. I can't play anymore. Roy, this game is broken. Why are people playing these bullshit cards? So I don't know if Kyle will bite the bullet and have his team play Drown God. But if he does, I think that's what's threatening about Greyjoy. I do think that the meta is ready for a Greyjoy team that brings a bunch of big guy decks. I think that really plays into what Team Martell wants. I think that plays into a lot of what Team Barrow wants. I think that's what plays into what a lot of what Night's Watch want. And I think any of the factions that choose to go all in on pure mid-range strategies, I think plays into the hands of some of the predators in the format, particularly Martell. I think if people go in a mid-range direction, I think that Martell wins. If they don't, if there's passive power, if the factions that have access to passive power, I think Martell's going to have more trouble. I think some of the factions that can like Stark, like Greyjoy, like Tyrell, because in the bowels of the Iron Throne, my little birds are telling me that people are testing combo decks on the Iron Throne with green cards. So, if that kind of degenerate power grab shit,
who's doing that?
Is my Night's Watch players are reporting, hey, I'm playing against somebody playing Tyrell combo. It's I'm like, oh man, what's going on?
The other reason,
can I get that list?
The other reason that I think Tyrell's in a really good spot is because that I truthfully believe that half the factions will be playing PD pretty heavily. And that hurts Greyjoy, that hurts Night's Watch, and that hurts Martell. Tyrell don't give a shit. They don't care at all. Oh, my arbor's duped. Who cares?
I will say that FAQ change to duping limited is significant. The fact that you can dupe your arbor and play another card, is nice.
Significant.
You can dupe your arbor and your red wine straights.
Exactly.
And play another limited card.
You can double dupe both of them turn one. And then when you PD and they riddle you, you can save them both twice.
Pretty sweet.
So getting back to Greyjoy, are you guys saying that they should play Drown God because Drown God is better? Or maybe a better meta call? Or are you saying there's something specific about having a diverse lineup?
So because only 3 people can play Sea of Blood. So in Drown God, and I will say that I keep up with Drown God a lot. It's my it might be one of my favorite decks of all time. I love it. Drown God is still incredibly, incredibly good. If you don't sit across from Sea of Blood, you're probably gonna win. Either Sea of Blood or targeted kill, you're probably going to win. And even still, you can sometimes just pull it off. If you can guarantee you're not going to see Sea of Blood every round, which you pretty much can in the war format, it's just good. You're just going to get free wins. People do not know how to play against passive power because they just don't. They don't know how to interact with it. Oh, I'll kill this. Okay. And you have Vince who just cancels things. That card is busted. And if they figured out that old Grey Golan Vince is stupid, Like, what can you do? Oh, I'll trigger this. No,
I'm not.
I'll trigger this.
I don't want to speak for you, Jesse, but if I was on Team Stark, what I would do is run Carhold. But that's just me.
I mean, Carhold does it, but I think.
I mean, this is a great meta play by Jesse to get everybody to run passive power, so he can just run Carhold and laugh.
Yeah.
I
do think they should run. How many can you run? 3 or 4? 3?
I mean, you can run up
3.
to 6 if you want to run a mono. Like, because there's 2 builds, right? There's the mono.
No, there's like.
There's a million, but I'm saying.
But 2 good ones, in my opinion.
Should run. They should
green
run Greyjoy Sun and regular decks.
I mean, Greyjoy Sun just gets free wins, right?
Yes.
There's like 60% of a field of a war, because just the nature of war, that just doesn't come equipped with the tools to beat the Greyjoy Sun deck. It's just the nature of the deck. Like, it's not saying that those are bad decks. And
even
free
then,
wins.
even if you know how to play against Drown God, Greyjoy Sun is a different beast.
Yes.
If you make a mistake, you're done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Greyjoy Sun can sneak up on you, like, in a way that Drown God can't, right? Because like the particularly against like Crossing, right? Like Crossing's out against mono Drown God is to just race it, which it can usually do, but the Raiders make it very dangerous to try to race. To try to race a Drown God player. So I would not be surprised if Kyle's running it, but he could go the Andros and just be like, I hate passive power. I'm not Andros and Dustin. Like, we're not doing that as a team. We'll see.
Yep.
Just like Tyrell might decide it doesn't want to play its version of passive power, or Stark doesn't want to play Fat Cat. Like, in these war formats, like some teams just don't want that style of play in their team.
I'll tell you right now, this just in. We're not playing Fat Cat.
So there you go.
Wyman got restricted, dog.
I think ultimately it should just be about the players. You know, if you have a player that wants to play Drown God, let him.
Yeah.
If not, don't make him. Same with
No,
Boulders,
I don't think.
Fat Cat.
I don't know if there's any king I don't know if I've ever heard of a king forcing someone onto a deck.
More forcing someone off the deck, I guess. Like if there's a king that was so morally opposed to Drown God that they wouldn't let someone on their team play it. I don't know.
I could see that happening. There are definitely people who have been kings that would have that attitude.
Yeah.
Now they haven't necessarily been in the factions.
Oh no, I didn't mean of all time. I meant like at my
at
tournament this year.
tournament.
At my tournament this year,
Sure.
I think everyone was pretty cool. Whatever.
But I think you say that, Jesse, but it's definitely happening, but it's not in a vile way or anything. They are suggested very nicely to get off.
That's a lot different. Forcing and suggesting someone onto a better deck because you have a better deck is way different.
No, but they actually only make them seem to have a choice, and they are convinced rather.
Well, that's wrong.
No, it's perfect.
I don't think so. I think it's wrong.
I mean, part of it's politics.
Okay, is this conversation going anywhere?
No.
Or okay?
Sandy's tired. I can see it in his eyes.
I'm so exhausted. It's like 5 a.m. for me. Estonia time.
That was 2 weeks ago. That's what you
told
told
us in the
us.
pre-show.
3:30 a.m. 4:30 a.m. Whatever.
We don't know. I'm on Central Time today, tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, last week. It's always Central Time for me, boys.
All right. Well, but Jesse's right. Do we have any sort of final thoughts that people want to have about Jesse's name day before we jump ship?
Yeah. How come there's no betting pool? What's going on with this? Like, what is the state of the game right now where I can't gamble on these tournaments?
I don't know.
Is gambling legal in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
You want to set one up, Sandy?
No, I don't like giving odds. I like winning.
Let's see. Final thoughts. We do believe that we will have streaming. We've got a couple different people bringing stuff. Our streamers will remember to save the videos. And then, but yeah, so we should have streaming. Hopefully, if not, even if we don't have streaming, we will have recorded games. But we really will try to stream because I've had a lot of people do that. Follow along on Jousting Pavilion. If you're not coming, if you're coming, I will see you in a week and a half. And I'm excited. Biggest fan run North American tournament ever. In a bar in Wisconsin.
Oh, it's a credit to you, Jesse. Not even Sam Bratz could get that many people to go to Wausau.
And you want to plug the side event on Sunday too?
Yeah, sure. So if you haven't read the page, the side event should be fun. We're going to do this on Jousting Pavilion as well. We are doing so the dream would have been to do like this big of a trial of 3 tournament, but with like people's travel and decks and stuff, the committee, we just kind of decided on day 2, you sign up with a team. It's still like 3 people versus 3 people. It's still a team trio format, but there's no restrictions. We just couldn't. We can't hold people to restrictions because then, like, I don't want to tell someone no, they can't play because of the deck they brought. That seems very unfair. But there is prize support for that as well. Those play mats that everyone seems to enjoy. The top 2 teams do get play mats and stuff. There will be alt darts thrown around. Also, if you've never played in a format like that, it's super fun. It is really, really fun.
So, Sandy, you, me, and Glazer team leaving early to drive to Chicago.
Yeah.
So
I'm checking. I actually had to check and make sure that I have a rental car. I think I do. I think I booked it already. Does anyone remember?
I think I'm playing me, Sean, and Matt. So.
Oh, it's spicy. I like it.
We will be bringing separate decks.
Oh my God! You're gonna make the Canadians bring extra decks.
I'm just gonna build them for them. Tell them what to play. I'll tell them what to play.
Oh, there's Jesse being the tyrant. There's the secret Jesse, the tyrant. Always just telling people what they got to play. Yeah. All right. Any other final thoughts before we say goodbye? All right. Nope. So I will see many of you next week on the 5th for Jesse's name day. I'm incredibly excited. Go Team Night's Watch. I want to thank Jim for joining us for this episode. Thanks, Jim. I hope you enjoyed being a second son.
Thanks for having me.
We will be back the Tuesday after Jesse's name day tournament to talk about the meta, congratulate the winner. Hopefully, we'll have maybe one of the winners on. We'll see. It depends on who wins, as always, because we are a bunch of elitist bastards here, and we get to choose who comes on our show. So, yeah.
I'll be on the show, so you'll have at least one of the winners.
That's right. We'll have Sandy on the show.
Tyrell historically has won Jesse's name day.
It's true. 100% you're gonna wear your suit again? You're gonna win your suit?
We're not gonna talk about Jesse's name day last year at all.
Yeah. Anyway, kill the stream, Buzz.